and starts firing like opera lasers. And it turns for a moment into like a quick time, like music action game where you've got to sing opera. Faraway Lucas and lovely audience at home, same question. What is your favourite bad sequel to a thing that you actually like?
Oh, I'd hate to call it bad, but maybe the most disliked thing that I had to just disassociate with is Toy Story 4.
We're not talking about that today, we're talking about my version of that, Devil May Cry 2.
And I want to clarify before people get mad at me, I think Toy Story 4 is a fine film, it's just not made for me.
Yeah, also, it undoes the great ending of Toy Story 3.
But it's for a new generation of fans, right? And
literally, they needed to keep selling toys.
Yeah.
And the concept of toys that are alive that get really upset if you don't play with them.
So long, partner.
Yeah, I have to just accept that, hey, Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 are my Toy Story, and we can move on.
My favourite thing about Toy Story 4 is, like, a big plot point is the little girl makes the spoon. And it's like, oh, she showed her creativity and made a toy for herself, and as a result, that has value to her. They sold merch of that spoon that you couldn't customise.
Yeah, it's wild that they didn't sell a spoon and pipe cleaner kit or some shit,
to make your own toy or friend. It's like they sell Mr. Potato Head merch for the Toy Story movie that you can't rearrange his facial pieces for, even though that's the point of Mr. Potato Head, because he has to look like he does in the movie, right?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure there were Mr. Potato Head toys in the past that were just, hey, here's a bunch of accessories, you can make them look however you wanted.
They came with a real potato. They didn't come with a real potato, but they were intended to be used with a real potato.
Take any fruit or vegetable. Just stick in eyes, then ears, and then the mouth.
Yeah, that's where the original, toy idea comes from, right? Is just, you've got a potato at home, it's cheap, it's easy, stick some things in it, it's a toy.
It's also where, the replayability of that toy came from, of, potatoes are different sizes. So different sized potatoes, you could, attach different kinds of personalities to them.
You can make the funniest looking people in the whole world. Potato Head people look different every time you make them.
And it was effectively, just a different version of, a paper doll. If you know the idea of a paper doll, that was, a toy for kids who didn't have a lot of money, where it's just, you cut out, a paper, literally just a paper stick figure, and clothes out of paper, and you attach them to the thing, and you play with it as a doll.
Right, okay, yeah. No, I don't remember that, but yeah.
It was literally before our time, but that's, the kind of toy Mr. Potato Head was intended as. But we're not talking about that today, Lucas. We're talking about Devil May Cry 2. So I'm going to set the scene. I love Devil May Cry. I love character action. I'm going to establish that right now. I want to establish my Devil May Cry fan chops. Here's my copy of Devil May Cry 1. Here's my copy of Devil May Cry 3. I didn't have my copy of Devil May Cry 4 because it's in a box under my stairs because I don't have it out on display. But here's my copy of Transformers Devastation. Pretend that's Devil May Cry 4. And here's my copy of Devil May Cry 5. Yeah, the music's kicking in. You will accept my existence, old man. And then he didn't die, and I was super salty about it. So I was like, that would have been the best ending for this fight.
Until devil triggers kicking in.
Until this happened. Oh! I do not own a copy of Devil May Cry 2, even for the sake of completion, because fuck that game.
Yeah, and amongst a series of games where I think each game has a major flaw apart from 3, Devil May Cry's 2 flaw is the entire game.
And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about Devil May Cry 2 is because Devil May Cry as a series might be one of the healthiest series in gaming if you discount the spin-off that died on its ass, because 4/5 of the games in the Devil May Cry series are good, and I can't think of many games with that many sequels where the majority are good.
Yeah, and even if you include DMC, I think for the majority of the time, it's generally a good game to play.
The Definitive Edition fixes most of the gameplay issues. You couldn't fix that story.
Fuck.
But
No.
just in terms of it being a character action game where you play as Dante, it's fine.
But I think even the original can be classed as like a well-made, decent game. It wasn't a bad game where, the conversation of Devil May Cry 2 probably then strays. Yeah.
It's a bad game if you compare it to Devil May Cry 3. It's a fine game if you compare it to, like, Heavenly Sword.
Yeah, exactly.
But, like, just the fact you're comparing it to Devil May Cry 3 means that it's never going to, stand on its feet. Because, like, Devil May Cry 3 until the release of Devil May Cry 5 was just the one. But for anyone out there who's like, okay, so Karl, what's your beef with this game? Let's let Wikipedia guide our hips on this one, shall we? So, Devil May Cry 2 is a 2003 character action game developed and published by Capcom. It was released from January to March, originally for the PlayStation 2. In terms of chronological order, the game's events are set after Devil May Cry 1 and prior to Devil May Cry 4.
Yeah, it's that weird thing where just every game is in different orders, and 3 is the first game.
It's the prequel. Like, Devil May Cry 2 was so poorly received, both in terms of its story and its gameplay. Devil May Cry 3 had to be a sequel, so they didn't have to reference it. And it's still canon, but it seldom gets referenced. And I think in like the anime or like one of like the mangas, Dante recounts like Devil May Cry 2, and he's like, I was fucking bored the entire time. Like, what? Sometimes you just take a job for a paycheck. And that's why, like, in that game, Dante just doesn't have a character, because canonically he was just bored and doing it for the paycheck.
Crap like that doesn't interest me. But your swan song will.
Yeah, it's weird because it's almost the opposite of what the Metroid franchise did for a long time. They avoided getting anywhere near Super Metroid because they were so scared of how good Super Metroid was, they couldn't top it. Whereas Devil May Cry 2 was like, quick, forget that shit existed.
It's so bad, we don't want to touch it. But he thinks, no, I'll help my mum one more time.
Oh!
Oh, he's dead.
Mother!
But Lucas, look. Look.
Wow, 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 wow.
Samus is pissed. Fuck him up!
Ah!
But, set in modern times in the fictional They Damali Island, the story centers around the demon hunter Dante and the island guardian Lucia in her fight to stop a businessman named Arius from raising the demon Argo Sax and achieving supreme power. And the worst bit about Devil May Cry 2 just being shit is that Lucia is not a bad character. She's not a great character, but the fact that she's just forever trapped in Devil May Cry 2 forever because the game was so poorly received is kind of a shame. It's like Sheva in Resident Evil 5. I think Sheva is a good character. Resident Evil 5 is a good game. It's not an amazing game, and it's not Resident Evil 4, so that's why a lot of fans don't like it. But I think Sheva deserves more than to just be forever trapped in Resident Evil 5. If you're going to play business Sheva, I might just play non-business Chris. Safari Chris. So you're ready for business, Chris is ready for a night on the town. How's that sound? Fucking let's go, the Mercenaries.
Yeah, Sheva deserves justice, and I've not played Devil May Cry 2, but Lucia and Lucia's gameplay is one thing that I've never heard people generally complain about.
Also, her design's really fun. Like, it contrasts Dante's like devil design by giving her an angelic one. Also, one of the things about Devil May Cry 2 that I'll give it props for, is the fact that the game came with 2 discs. And they build it as having 2 entire games, and it's not. It's just like you play through the same game, just with a different character. But they put that game on a new disc, and that was actually an ingenious bit of marketing. It's a shame it wasn't done for a better game.
Yeah, it's wild that they stepped on the same rake twice, because they essentially did not the 2-disc thing, but they did the whole you basically play the same game again in reverse with a different character with Devil May Cry 4, where just I enjoyed playing as Dante in that game, but playing as Dante felt so bad because the Devil Bringer was gone and you're playing through the same levels with the same bosses.
Yeah, Devil May Cry 4 also suffered from a lot of like production issues, and you can clearly tell they ran out of time halfway through the game, or halfway through production. So as you said, when you play as Dante, you just run back through Nero's levels and fight all his bosses again.
Yeah.
And it's very clear that they intended for Dante to have like a bigger role in the story, because as you mentioned, a lot of the enemies don't feel fun to fight as Dante because the enemies were designed to be fought by Nero, who has the Devil Bringer, which allows him to grab and powerbomb enemies. Dante can't do that. And you can tell that a lot of the enemies were designed around that system, and as a result, just there's something missing. There's just something missing about the way they interact with the world, and just as a result, playing as Dante just doesn't feel as good as playing as Nero.
Especially the bosses, they all seem to have weak points that are weak to the Devil Bringer, where Nero grabs them and throws them about, and then you do it as Dante and it feels shit.
Yeah, well, like, for Dante, it's just okay, just do like a couple of like free hits, which is fine, but doing a couple of free hits is not as cool as like drag the enemy out of the ground and powerbomb him into the earth at max rate.
Yeah, it was a weird thing to just dunk on Dante, and as you say, clearly it was a bunch of production issues when we found out later. But
well, speaking of production issues, Lucas, handled by a different team that lacked experience, Devil May Cry 2 had a troubled production, which was reflected in its reception. The game received mixed reviews and has been criticised for a variety of decisions, which made it considerably different from its predecessor. Chief among these were the lowered difficulty and changes to Dante's personality. And as an idea of how easy this game is, you can literally beat the entire game pressing square, which is the shoot gun button. And supposedly, the reason why is that, as mentioned, the team who made Devil May Cry 2 lacked experience with the genre and the series. And they did like a bunch of tests on people who similarly didn't really know that much about character action as a genre. And when they asked those people, like, okay, so what are your chief criticisms of Devil May Cry 1? And one of them was, the guns need to do more damage. And as a result, they made the guns just do more damage, and they didn't realise that the guns aren't supposed to do damage in Devil May Cry. The guns are there to shoot enemies who are far away to continue your combo, or juggle them in the air. Like, the guns are there as like combo filler. The bulk of your damage should be done via your melee weapons, and the guns are more there as like it's like a light jab in a fighting game. Yeah, like I said, I'm not a young man anymore. But at least I was able to concentrate. So I was able to just do all the dumps I wanted to, and I tried my damnedest like this, just to do stuff that looks cool.
Yeah, it's mainly just, as you say, to like juggle enemies or to make sure that the style meter stays intact, right?
And just they didn't seemingly realise why that was the case. And in Devil May Cry 2, the guns are so good you can beat every boss by just pressing square. And I think the design decision that reflects just how poorly they understood the genre is that the guns will auto-juggle enemies. And if you shoot the basic enemy with your pistols, they will rise into the air on their own, so you don't even need to fucking launch them.
And I do feel really sorry for that dev team, because you mentioned that, like, they lack experience in the genre, and I think they were, like, brought in before DMC1 even came out, but, like, they were working on a genre that didn't exist yet, because Devil May Cry was a pioneer.
Yes, Devil May Cry invented the character action was a genre, but Devil May Cry invented the stylish character action genre.
Mm-hmm.
And stylish character action is different from character action. So character action is your games like your Dynasty Warriors, where it's like, just no emphasis is placed on skill. Of course, those games take skill to complete, especially on harder difficulties, but no emphasis is placed on looking cool or doing like unique and interesting things with the mechanics you're given. It's about killing as many enemies as possible, like hack and slash. Whereas like Devil May Cry, it's about dispatching your enemy in the most stylish manner possible, as reflected by the in-game style meter that has a tangible, although never stated, effect on gameplay. And that's what makes Devil May Cry so fun, because something people maybe don't realise is that the style meter does change gameplay. The game just never tells you. For example, you do more damage when you have a higher style meter.
Hey, do your job. You're gone.
There's like loads of little things like that the game doesn't tell you, but when you know that they're there, it makes a lot of sense. Like I said, the one of your style meter making you do more damage. So the better you are playing, the better it feels, because if you got like a triple S rank, you'll just fucking annihilate an entire room of enemies. As you should, because you have earned that damage boost. The game just doesn't tell you you have a damage boost, but you have one.
And I wonder how much of that was communicated to that second dev team, because, as mentioned, I think that they got brought on before Devil May Cry even came out, so they didn't even get to really build that game design on feedback from the original yet.
Exactly, but there is a silver lining to Devil May Cry 2's existence, and that is that the director, Hideaki Itsuno, went on to direct Devil May Cry 3, and their stated reason for directing Devil May Cry 3 is that they were so annoyed by the feedback to Devil May Cry 2, it's like, it fucking sucks, that they went to Capcom and went, give me one more chance. Give me a chance to prove that I understand what made this game fun the first time around, and they made Devil May Cry 3.
Yeah, because they're a bunch of talented devs at Capcom. They just, I say, like, they got thrown to the wolves a bit. I think they were, like, from the Street Fighter 3 development team or something crazy.
Let's find out. So, development. Throughout the turn of the millennium, Team Little Devils, a group within Capcom Production Studio 4, helmed by Hideki Kamiya, who previously led the successful Resident Evil 2 developed Devil May Cry. That's the thing people probably know about Devil May Cry, is that Devil May Cry actually started life as a Resident Evil game, and then it became so buck wild off the fucking walls that they went, this can't be Resident Evil. Resident Evil isn't this stupid yet.
Yeah, I believe it was one of the prototypes for RE4 that then got spun off into Devil May Cry.
Yeah, and there's some like development footage out there I'll track down and put on screen now to show people.
The Resident Evil influence in the original Devil May Cry, where it's very gothic and slower paced, it really evolved like later on.
And even the design of Dante, where he has like Leon's like curtain hair and like Claire's red jacket.
Yeah. True, yeah, just the jacket grew a little bit and became a trench coat.
It did indeed, yes. But so, the first director of Team Devil was a planner who'd worked under Studio One general manager Noritaka Funimizu. The crew ultimately contained many people who'd mostly worked on fighting games like Street Fighter, as well as some Team Little Devils members and industry newcomers like producer Tsuyoshi Tanaka and planner Bingo Morihashi, totaling around 40 to 50 developers. Kamiya believes the change happened due to a lack of consciousness over directors' influence on game style, and an attempt to balance profits due to a company attitude against concentrating major titles in a single division. Basically just, we don't believe that the guy who keeps making sick-ass character action games is the reason why these sick-ass character action games are successful. Because, like, Kamiya's the guy who works on fucking Beautiful Joe, which whips all kinds of ass.
Henshin go-go, baby! With the help of the peace-loving people of the world, our power has been restored. Our power is their power.
And with this power, I shall fight evil!
They went on to co-found Platinum Games, who he might not have directed every game. They made like Bayonetta 1 for 101, Vanquish, the Bayonetta trilogy. Just, yeah, there's a ton of Platinum games and their influence in there, and it's just, yeah, I think Kamiya, it's fine. We don't need him.
It's just the fact though that, like, when they made Devil May Cry 2, I'm imagining that Kamiya was like, see, you can't do it without me. And then he saw Devil May Cry 3 and he's like, fuck, maybe they can. So he goes out and he makes like Bayonetta, right? And it's like, oh, because Bayonetta and Dante should fucking meet up.
Oh, the like absolute insanity that would be a Devil May Cry cross Bayonetta game. I would be so happy.
As well, you can see Bayonetta's character as a direct answer to Dante, right? Like, oh, Dante, he's like half demon, fighting the forces of hell. Bayonetta is a witch fighting the forces of heaven. Dante has white hair. Bayonetta has black hair. Dante fights with 2 handguns. Fuck it, Bayonetta fights with 4.
Bayonetta!
Right? Dante has an electric guitar that fires clouds of bats. Bayonetta has got fucking, like, Tonfa rocket launcher she can strap to her high heels.
And can also become bats. Fuck it.
No, fuck it, she is the bat within, right? And just, oh man, if they did like Bayonetta May Cry.
Yeah, and
or Devil
it's
May
great
Bayonetta,
because
or Angels May Cry.
Angels May Cry. Oh yeah, that would be a great way to cross over. That's a good name for it. And like Bayonetta, there's many problems I have with the depiction of characters throughout the trilogy, but just Bayonetta and Dante are cool, and I would like to see them together.
I would like to see them fight enemies together. I would like to see, like, just the gameplay of Devil May Cry 5 with, like, the self-referential humour of the Bayonetta series.
And the creativity in the weapon choices, right?
Like, Devil May Cry has some, like, creativity in some of its weapons. Like, Dante has a fucking motorcycle that turns into chainsaws. That's pretty rad. But Bayonetta just gets real fucking weird with it sometimes. Like, we have, like, the roller skate chainsaws, right?
How's that for road rash?
Yeah, it's like, okay, Dante gets a briefcase that can turn into 666 weapons, but Bayonetta fights with spectral trains.
Yeah, like, Bayonetta can turn into a fucking train. Like, do you know that joke that someone made of, like, in Gears of War, they should put a train on a gun? And Bayonetta's like, why not?
Make the train my weapon, bitch.
Like I said, one of my favourite, like, character action moments. Like, I think it tops the Armstrong fight from Revengeance.
Ooh,
is in
that's saying a lot.
Bayonetta. Where it's like, oh, it's the fucking giant bat in the sky firing like bat lasers at you. And if people don't know, in Bayonetta 3, like, the gimmick of that game is, like, Bayonetta can summon demons. And for each big boss fight, she does a big summon. And summons a giant super version of each of the demons she has under her control.
That about crushing? I think you'll find we're extremely game for that.
And one of the demons is Baal, which is a reference to Devil May Cry 4, because it's like the giant frog demon that Nero kicks the fuck out of. And it's like, okay, so what's Baal going to turn into? A big frog? It's like, no, she just turns into an opera singer.
Good evening, mistress. Is this the new recital stage?
And starts firing fucking, like, opera lasers. And it turns for a moment into, like, a quick time, like, music action game where you've got to sing opera.
Oh my, such a large audience. I'd better jump into the chorus then.
I imagine they must have recorded the sound the same way they did for Fifth Element. Because in Fifth Element, it's an actual opera singer, but what they did is they got to sing each note.
Oh,
and then they
right.
like, played those notes like you were on a piano, because the singer physically could not switch between the notes as quickly as like the score required her to. I imagine it's the same thing for like Bayonetta 3, because if there's anyone out there who can like switch register as fast as Baalzebul does, why the fuck are they not like representing Earth for a theoretical fucking like Planet Vision? Like fuck Eurovision, Planet Vision, right?
The thing is, do we suck enough as a planet to just get totally 0 votes in Planet
like
Vision? Yeah.
Nil point. We won't get any points, right? It pisses me off every time, because my mate does a Eurovision party every year, and every time we just look at the English act, just go, why the fuck do they not just send Iron Maiden? Right?
Yeah, it is weird, right? Because I think it's almost... It's not against the rules to send a really established artist, but I think it's against the vibes.
Also,
right?
as well, there's like the Eurovision curse, where it's like real artists, quote unquote, don't do Eurovision because it's seen as like it's the death knell for your career.
Apart from ABBA.
Apart from ABBA, right? And that's the thing, I'm like, one year I just want ABBA to come back and say, fuck it. What you got?
That would be the perfect way for ABBA to be like, fuck you, we're never doing anything ever again, right?
I just don't get why they don't send the fucking Cheeky Girls. When I was watching like Eurovision, I saw our act, and it's like, okay, they're doing bubblegum pop. Like that's very Eurovision to me. Like Eurovision, like Euro pop and Euro beat and stuff. But I was thinking, like, just send the fucking Cheeky Girls.
We are the cheeky girls, we are the cheeky girls, you are the cheeky boys, you are the cheeky boys.
Just send two twins, got their arse out, singing about touching their bumhole. Let's go. Set that shit to a beat.
I don't know if it works when they're like, what, 40 plus years old now?
They're still singing. There was like a video going around the other day. It's like, here's the Cheeky Girls performing at a Pride event.
Oh, fair enough.
They've still got it.
Keep going.
Getting back to Devil May Cry 2, Capcom management at the time was disappointed with the financial performance of Studio One's output. The change of teams for Devil May Cry 2 was part of a pivot reflecting industry trends, and that's always just not what you want to hear when you're reading about the development of any media project, right? Of, we're going to shift the focus of development to chase trends. It's like, you do realise making video games, TV shows, movies takes years, right? Trends don't tend to hang around for years.
It's certainly something that was more acceptable 20 plus years ago when a game could get cranked out in a year or two, especially a sequel. But nowadays, when you see Ubisoft announcing like Trend Chaser game number 3, and it's 3 years in development behind the trend, and it's going to take another 3 years to come out, it's like, what are you doing?
One thing to note here is that the original crew worked on Devil May Cry were reached out to comment multiple times by whatever crew replaced them. But he doesn't really know how much of their feedback was taken into account.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, you can have communication, but whether that communication was implemented into the game or not, clearly not enough, because the reception of Devil May Cry 2.
And now we have production, Lucas. So, Devil May Cry 2 was conceived as happening 10 years after the events of the original game, since a producer didn't like the joke-cracking wise-ass Dante of Devil May Cry. So they wanted to fast-forward 10 years to make him older and more taciturn. And it's just the thing of, like, what do people like about this game? Well, the main character is funny, charming, and goofy. I fucking hate that get rid. It's like, but... the audience likes it. I hate it. Get rid.
Yeah!
I'll take that.
And again, I think this is the problem because they're making decisions before the audience got to play the first game. So they didn't know how much everyone else would be like, you know, everyone else dislikes that decision. Just fuck it. Like, listen to the producer or whatever it was. Listen to the higher up, and they made the wrong call.
Do you know what this reminds me of? Like Dante being like, you know, a character who wields dual pistols and a sword and is primarily depicted wearing red, and he's like, you know, a joke-cracking wise-ass. The production of, like, Deadpool, and people don't know what I'm talking about here, the production of Deadpool was reportedly a fucking nightmare. And there was one guy called Tom something or other who held it back, and he was a higher up at Fox. And if people recall, the original, like, you know, leaked Deadpool trailer,
the one that they definitely leaked by accident. Yeah.
Let's hope these guys are wearing their brown pants.
in that, and I'll put the clip in, Deadpool looks to camera and says, "Hi, Tom." And that's Ryan Reynolds communicating directly to that executive.
Crime's the disease. Meet the cure.
Okay, not the cure, but more like a topical ointment that reduces swelling and itch. Hi, Tom! Oh, fuck me.
And reportedly, like, that executive just single-handedly held back a Deadpool movie because he didn't get Deadpool. He didn't understand the idea of breaking the fourth wall, and every time they tried to explain it to him, he's like, "I don't get it, cut it out." And that's the reason why Deadpool barely interacts with like the fourth wall in like the X-Men Origins movie, because every time they tried to put that into the script, that one executive would veto that decision because he didn't get it, and because he didn't get it, they weren't allowed to put it in.
But Karl, they did a great depiction of Deadpool in that movie where just the merc with a mouth got his mouth sewed up.
But isn't that fascinating though? Like, just one dude didn't get the joke, and as a result, the entire movie just didn't get made because one guy, quote unquote, didn't get it.
It's insane to see that primarily the reason that they could get a character done so badly in X-Men Origins that it's mainly down to one person is wild. Because you would think, just tell that one person, hey, come back in a week when you've read some Deadpool comics and see what you think.
Okay. People are dead.
If you didn't have that mouth on you, Wade, you'd be the perfect soldier.
Yeah, and reportedly, just that executive did not understand the breaking the fourth wall bit with Deadpool, and just assumed that nobody else would get it either. And every time it was explained to him, like, it's something the character does in the comics, trust us, the people who like Deadpool, the people you want to appeal to with a Deadpool movie, will get why this is the case. And for the people who don't, we'll explain it, because handily, a character who can break the fourth wall can talk straight to the fucking audience.
Suck it, Fox. I'm going to Disneyland.
Get fucked.
Yeah, it's the one time a gimmick can be directly explained to by the character with the weird gimmick.
And yeah, just that director just kept it. And that's why, in that like leaked trailer, Deadpool looks straight to camera and says, "Hi, Tom." Supposedly because they were trying to sell it to that executive, because he's the only one they needed to convince to greenlight the entire project, because he was the one holding back all the production. So they made that trailer for him, and he still didn't get it. The character looked dead to camera, waved and said his name, and he didn't get it.
Yeah, I presume that made them just more confused than anything. Oh, I don't like that character can talk to me directly.
Why is he talking to me? The audience won't get that. This isn't a scene for an audience. It's a scene for you.
Yeah, this is made for you to watch.
You just didn't get it. But anyway, getting back to Devil May Cry. So, the game's entire cast has few lines of dialogue and never takes drastic action. So that's the thing, it's a story about saving the world and Dante's bored for 90% of it.
Which can kind of fit with the Dante character when he's being quippy and weird, not when he's being a stoic, older, badass character.
Yep, to one of the producers, they said, and I quote, Dante's sudden silence almost seemed to imply that something terrible had happened between the events of 1 and 2. Producers Ikeno and Morihashi felt the lack of any warm moments from Lucia hurt her likability. It's like, yeah, so it's okay if you want to make Dante a stoic badass, but you can't introduce a new character who doesn't say anything. If they don't say anything,
Right.
how are we supposed to know if we like them or not?
But Marge, that little guy hasn't done anything yet. Look at him. He's gonna do something, and you know it's gonna be good.
I don't know much about Lucia because
It
again,
doesn't
I just
fucking matter,
always heard.
Lucas. She's not a character. She never had a chance.
I always heard terrible things about Tusa, never played it, but like, is she that bad? Does she just have no characterization?
She barely talks. She never says anything. But she has a neat design. And that's the thing,
Yeah.
like, it's a character with a cool design who I feel like deserves another chance.
It's wild to make two characters have very little character as your main characters.
Yep. Let's see, the silent protagonist works, but not when your protagonist is... Like, you'd be like making a Deadpool movie where you sew his mouth shut. It won't fucking work, would it? Like, what kind of a fucking idiot would make that decision?
Especially alongside another character that barely likes to talk, like Logan.
Apparently, well, that was also that executive decision. Like, when they tried to explain to it, look, this character's called the Merc with a mouth. It's like, well, fucking sew it up then. Anyway.
Yeah, there's a reason that a movie like Deadpool and Wolverine works, or people really like Wolverine and Spider-Man combo in the comics, is one person being stoic and getting pissed off at the quippy, annoying character. That's a good dynamic. Whereas when you just make them both barely talk, it's boring.
You can't have two stoic badasses.
Oh, you got nothing to say, mouth?
I'm gonna fight you now.
Oh, are you?
It's like, we mentioned like music earlier, right? I think back to the 90s when we had the Spice Girls, right? And each member of the Spice Girls had their own distinctive personality, to the point where just their names reflected their basic gimmick, right? Sporty, posh, scary, baby, and ginger. And I love the idea that being ginger is a personality trait. Anyway. And you had a similar thing with boy groups, right? Where like NSYNC or your Backstreet Boys. Like, each member of those groups had their own thing. Right? You'd have the bad boy, the sporty one, the cool one, the preppy one.
Yeah, it wasn't labelled to the extent where like Spice Girls literally told you what their vibe was, but you could still see in the way that they dressed and acted on like the videos and stuff like that.
Which is a way to, like, maximise the appeal of that group, right? Of, hey, like, not every like teenage girl or boy at home is going to like this particular character trait. But if we have 5 different character traits, then they're going to latch onto one member of the team.
If you're not a girl that vibes with like Posh Spice being the fashionable one and stuff, you've got somebody like Sporty Spice that seems a bit more down to earth and relatable.
Yeah, but you fast forward like 10, 15 years and you get newer girl and boy bands, and just it's seemingly everyone just wanted to be the cool one. Like, you had One Direction, right? And they fell apart because of the egos of all the people on it, where they all wanted to be the cool one. It's like, you can't all be the cool one. One of you has to be the fucking dork, because there are girls out there who wear glasses, and we need to appeal to them, you fucking idiots.
I mean, that does bode true for the most part, but then you look at K-pop, whereas, like Blackpink and BTS and stuff, and they are all just the hot one.
Yeah. I forget which one of the K-pop groups it was, but something that apparently happens when they make K-pop groups is they get given their look. And they have some degree of autonomy of what their look can be. but
not much.
You get to pick,
Yeah.
right? And supposedly in K-pop, like someone who was really into K-pop who I dated briefly, not anymore, because fun facts, that they kept a picture of their favourite K-pop idol next to their bed. That's a real thing that I had to deal with, right?
The thing is, you should have just stapled your face on top of the idol.
I'll be honest, it's really fucking hard to stay on your game when you've got some like K-pop dudes staring at you from the ceiling. Right? Anyway, right? Apparently, like the thing that all the guys in K-pop groups want to be is they want to have the one with blonde hair because they stand out the most. If you think like you're watching a group of 5 guys who all have like black hair, and there's one dude who has dyed blonde hair, he's automatically going to stand out. And there's one group where every single member of the team asks for that, so they all come out with white hair. And I don't know which group it was, but I'll try and track down that story, because I remember seeing, like, they showed me the music video, and it's fucking hilarious, because they all walk out, and it's almost as if they're seeing each other for the first time. And they're all just Dante.
They all just wanted to be the unique one, which means that no one was
exactly,
unique.
And that's what I feel it's like, right? Of like, oh, everyone in like Little Mix wants to be the cool one, but if you all be the cool one, then none of you stand out.
They came to the restaurant I worked in like quite often when they would play in Liverpool, and I never remembered which one was which.
But you remember which member of the Spice Girls you'd meet, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, right, so despite having fluffier hair, you know what? I get it. It's fucking warm in the UK today, fluffy hair, man. Dante's design emphasised his elegance, but the accompanying personality change did not endear at all. Future series designer Tatsuya Yoshikawa couldn't play the game because Dante's face was a little too scary.
Yeah, but in terms of outfit, I do know a few Devil May Cry fans that will say that the 2 outfit is the best outfit.
Not to mention as well, that's when they had the cross-collaboration with, like, Diesel, the male clothing brand. And they have, like, Dante wearing denim jeans and a jacket. And do you know what? That redesign is sick. And I want that to come back for video games. Of that era where cross-collaborations between, like, real-world things and video games were given away for free. Not sold to you piecemeal. Like in Devil May Cry, it's like, okay, Diesel wants to sponsor this game. We're going to put a Diesel-branded outfit in for Dante and Lucia. And that's what. And as a player, you get a free new costume, the development of which was paid for by a brand, and then in return, they get their branded logo on the screen.
Yeah, I still think that the greatest, maybe not sponsorship, but the greatest collaboration in that sense was, do you remember Burnout Paradise's one?
Was it? It was Xbox 360, right? They had an Xbox 360 car in there.
They might have done, but the billboards and signage across Burnout Paradise was for Barack Obama's like presidential election.
That is genius, right?
Yeah, it was great.
The one that I liked, and I bring it up all the time, is Gears of War. Got sponsored by the Discovery Channel.
Yes, and they had a map pack.
And if anyone's thinking, what on the Discovery Channel relates to Gears of War? Don't they do, like, penguin documentaries and shit? It was the show Future Weapons.
Oh, okay.
Which makes sense, right?
I didn't
Gears of War
that.
is one view at the future. A dystopian future with chainsaw guns, but still, and they sponsored, or they reached out to Xbox, like, what can we sponsor? And Xbox said, well, would you like to just pay for a map pack for our players? So what's that? It's like, well, you give us some money, and every player of, like, our 20 million install base will log in and see that they got a free gift from you. And it was a map pack. I miss that.
I think 3 or 4 maps that we got given to for free, but it was, the channel's name and branding put on it, and there was nothing in the maps to do with it. It was just normal Gears maps, but it was, hey, here's a way to reach out to an audience that probably generally wouldn't watch our channel, but hey, we gave them a free gift.
Nowadays, you have to pay for that, right? Like in Gears of War, they had like the collaboration with like Terminator. I was like, oh, cool, we're going to get a free Terminator skin. It's like, no, you can pay us for a Terminator skin.
Give us 20 quid, mate. What you on
You
about?
want me to pay you to advertise your product in a game I already bought? Right?
Yeah, fuck you. Pay 20 quid to play as the exoskeleton.
Like, that should be if anything, that should be free, right? Because if you give it to people for free, then you have like millions of people running around in a video game advertising your product. But I guess someone somewhere must have done the math and went, well, that's good. Or would you rather have a couple 100,000 people pay to advertise your product?
Yeah, how many people bought that recent Sabrina Carpenter skin, for example, in Fortnite, compared to how many people would see Sabrina Carpenter for free and then go listen to the music?
Yeah, it's just it's interesting because it's reflective of the change in like the business model, right?
It is, yeah.
And I miss that, and I obviously I would rather my games not have advertising in them, but if they're going to do a collaboration like that, I would much rather have the one where I get something for free than I have to pay to advertise something for a company.
Yeah, I remember when Mario Kart 8 had like 3 Mercedes-Benz like vehicles in them, and guess what? That was a free little DLC update thing. Just, yeah, Mario can drive in a Mercedes now. We're not going to ask you to pay for that because that would be insane.
Yep. But either way, right? So we're going to move swiftly on now, Lucas, to critical reception. So, the game received mixed reviews, according to the review aggregator Metacritic. Chief among the complaints was that the difficulty was lower than that in the first game, even on harder difficulties. As said, even on the very hardest difficulty, you can just press square and beat the entire game.
Not really what you want out of a stylish game,
Yep.
really.
The combat system was also criticised as being less refined, and even though there are individual weapons that Dante can use, they are simply weaker or stronger variants of the exact same weapon, instead of different weapons with their own advantages and disadvantages. Because that's the thing about Devil May Cry, right? If even in the first game, you had Alasta, the lightning sword, and Irithit, or Ifrit, I suppose, if that's pronunciation that Final Fantasy uses, which gives you fire punches. One is fast and fluid, the other one is slow, deliberate, and hard-hitting. And it's up to you to choose what approach you'd like to take towards combat.
So Devil May Cry's 2 weapons all have the same weapon, abilities?
You have the same moveset, but you either have a big sword that's slower but more powerful, a thin sword that's faster and less powerful, or the medium sword that has average stats.
But one moveset.
One moveset. You also have all your guns. It's either pistols or the Uzis, which are just the pistols that fire without having to mash square.
Yeah, I definitely don't think they've brought Uzis back. That doesn't sound right.
They also, as well, there's a couple of minor things as a fan of a series I really miss, and I miss this in later games actually, where it is possible to do, but something really interesting about Devil May Cry 1 is that as you play through the game on harder and harder difficulties, enemies get new moves, which is a thing that happens in later games. But you had the bestiary, and the bestiary would teach you new techniques to beat enemies that maybe weren't apparent. And that is a thing in later Devil May Cry games, but I think it'd be handy for those things to be communicated to players who maybe wouldn't think to try them, who maybe approach it in a more linear fashion. For example, with Nero's Devilbringer, pretty much everything in Devil May Cry 4 and 5 can be parried by the Devilbringer. They never tell you that it can be, but it can. For example, the very final attack by the final boss in Devil May Cry 4, you can just Devilbringer it and catch him and suplex him out of it.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, but the game doesn't tell you can do that. And I think even obviously as a player of the game, I experimented with it. And I don't want there to be a big fucking button prompt on screen. But maybe if there was a little thing where you're reading through it on a second playthrough, it's oh, maybe try doing this. You might be surprised at the result, right? I remember playing for the first game and fighting Phantom. And they have the description of Phantom, the spider, and it's and they have a little note that says, a real fucking big dick devil hunter might try hitting his fireballs back. I'm like, what? And if you swing your sword at exactly the right time, you'll baseball bat Phantom's fireballs directly back into his mouth.
Maybe they could do it in a more modern sense, where it comes up with just a pretend Twitch chat that goes, hey, have you thought about maybe using this weapon?
I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want there to be a button prompt on screen telling you to press a button, because that removes player agency and the fluidity and creativity the combat system affords. But I did like the solution of having a little list of things that you might try. And the harder the difficulty got, the more advice you got on more stylish and effective ways to dispatch the enemies. Because the harder the difficulty, the more ways you need to approach the combat because the enemy now has more moves, more health. And I always like that system.
What difficulty is, right, is that you need to use your arsenal more specifically rather than just kind of being able to mash away with any weapon, whereas most games just choose to up the health and lower your damage.
Yeah, whereas Devil May Cry, even on the hardest difficulty in Devil May Cry, they do give all the enemies more health. But them having more health means you can combo them for longer, and comboing them for longer means that your style rank can go up, and as mentioned, when your style rank reaches triple S, which is pretty much guaranteed to do on the hardest difficulty because the amount of enemies you are fighting at once, you actually end up dispatching them just as quickly as on the easier difficulties if you know what you're doing. And I think that's difficulty done right. Like I talk about...
Yeah, because you can make the game easy by playing it well, but if you're not playing well and not getting a triple S rank, then it is way harder, right? And you've got to make sure that you're keeping up that level of skill to make the game easier.
I think to like Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, where on the quickest speed runs of the game play through on the hardest mode, and on the hardest mode every enemy gets more health, and you might think, well, surely that takes longer to kill enemies, right? And it's like, well, it does, unless you take advantage of the parry system. So in Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, as in many character action games, you can parry an enemy's attack at the last possible second. And in Rising Revengeance, the higher the difficulty, the tighter the window you have to parry an attack gets. But the damage done by the parry also increases. So the risk goes up, but so does the reward. And as a result, on the hardest difficulty, landing a clean parry on a boss will instantly delete half its health bar. Instantly. But landing that parry in the first place requires absolute mastery of the game's systems and knowledge of like what that enemy can do.
Just getting started.
And if you miss the parry, then you're probably going to get hurt for way more damage, right?
Yeah, but you shouldn't be getting hit because if you're playing on the hardest difficulty, you should know what the timing is, right? And I like that. It's like Call of Duty probably handles it best for like first-person shooters where, okay, bullet sponge enemies are here, but a headshot always kills. So if you're good enough to always land a headshot always kills.
Yeah, it's similar to Halo, right? Where just there are ways to instantly take out enemy shields with enemies, like a hit to the back or with like the plasma pistol and things like that, regardless of what difficulty you're playing on. Just a plasma pistol to a shield and then one clean shot in the head with a precision weapon, that'll kill any enemy.
Yeah. Or one like clean
one
clean gun butt to the back of any enemy, regardless of strength or difficulty, you always kill it. To the point where in Halo, there is like an item you can pick up that makes you completely invincible. Even if you have that item, if another player gunbutts you, or if an enemy's using that on the hardest difficulty with every skull on, if you gunbutt them in the back of the head, they instantly die.
Really?
Yeah. Because it should, because you were skillful enough to flank the enemy. And if you've got to the point where you flanked an enemy, regardless of how difficult that enemy is to defeat, you deserve to do more damage. You earned it through your gameplay and your skill.
I can't remember if you need to like take off a piece of armor or something, but the gun butt to the back of the head or back of the weak spot still works on like the hunters.
It doesn't work on hunters, but hunters have a single spot in the back of their neck. If you remove their armor, you can hit the worms inside, and it does like a massively increased amount of damage. It's not a one-shot kill on harder difficulties, but it does enough damage to basically dispatch a hunter in 1 or 2 shots. It's the only enemy that doesn't count. I thought it was something
to do with removing the armor first, but it still has an equivalent, right, for a mini boss.
I think that's difficulty done well. Like in like Devil May Cry games, like the Devil Bringer. Like, do you know like Nero does more damage based on like the higher like your style ranking is?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
no.
The higher your style ranking is, the more damage your Devil Bringer attacks do. You can also, the game never tells you again, mash Devil Bringer attacks to do more damage. For example, like when you slam a puppet into the ground. On the higher your style ranking is, the more times Nero will slam it down. But also if you mash the button, he'll also slam it more.
Okay, yeah.
Just little things like that. And stuff like that also keeps you constantly engaged, because even when you're like watching like a 5-second, like, you know, pre-canned animation, you can still impact gameplay in a tangible way to do more damage or to prepare for the next attack. You can be charging your charge shot or like revving your sword.
And you can also choose to not do that to get to the next enemy quicker as well.
Yep. It's great. And I think, like, that's the difference between something like a Devil May Cry and a Devil May Cry 2, where Devil May Cry 2, it ups the damage and health for almost every enemy, but it doesn't really offer you any way to mitigate that through skillful play.
Yeah, the best thing to do regardless of how you're playing the game is to just mash the gun button.
It's not like in number 5 where, like, if you get really good with, say, like Royal Guard and stuff, or like grabbing. Like, for example, like Vergil has a lot of fucking health on the hardest mode in Devil May Cry 5. If you know what the fuck you're doing, you ain't got a chance. He needs that health because you'll be constantly in triple S rank doing 40 times the amount of damage you're supposed to do. He needs that health to survive the onslaught.
Yeah, it's why Royal Guard is great, because just if you're good enough, doesn't matter what you're fighting against on what difficulty, you're parrying that shit.
The timing window gets tighter with each increasing difficulty because the enemies move faster. But if you know that what that window is, you're fucking invincible.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't lose it. I practiced my Royal Guard so much. I got so good at Royal Guarding by the end. It sucks. Okay, I want to say one positive thing about Devil May Cry 2, and I do think this is cool. I don't like it as a gameplay system because it encourages bad play, and it rewards bad play. But Devil May Cry 2 introduced Desperado mode. And in Devil May Cry 2, you can transform into like Dante's Devil Trigger state, which is a staple of the series. If you are on like critical health, Dante will transform into a more powerful version of that state. I like that. I like that if you really fucking desperately need to activate Devil Trigger to survive. It's like, almost like, Dante's like adrenaline kicks in, you get a more powerful burst of energy to, like, a last stand, as it were. I've just realised something, Lucas. This video we're recording right now is going to bookend every single video we upload during Pride Month.
That is true, yeah. We pre-record these, but this will actually be during the month of Pride that this keeps showing, right?
Yeah, so I guess, like, shout-outs to all the guys, gals, and non-binary pals out there. We here at Wiki Weekends support your right to live and love the way you choose. If it wasn't obvious, we support gay rights. Our logo is literally a rainbow.
Yeah, like, I would hope that, everyone knows that we hope that they have a happy Pride. I hope that both me and you, Karl, enjoy our Pride as well. And just, yeah, it's one of those things of, like, I'm happy to be here and shout out and support those people, but I guess we also have to shout out the people that fucking pay us.
A big shout out to all of our fans who fall under the banner of Pride, but a specific shout out to the people who support us over on our highest tier on Patreon.
Yeah, we don't remove the rainbow from the Wiki Weekends logo after June. We can say that much, right?
Yeah, can you imagine if we did that? Like, we should start removing the rainbow. No, we should do. Keep the rainbow in every month except for Pride Month. Remember where Skittles did that? Where Skittles tried co-opting Pride by releasing entirely white Skittles and saying the only rainbow that deserves to fly during this month is the gay Pride rainbow. And it's like, fuck off, Skittles.
And then did they take that away a month later? Yeah, they fucking did. You know they did.
The best one was the one you told me of, like, the IKEA gay Pride couches that they released. And they were like, everyone's like, well, that's a pretty snazzy gay Pride couch. I want the gay sofa to have, like, gay sex on. Like, oh, it's not a real sofa, you can't buy it.
But it was a gay sofa for every flag, and they were like, yeah, these are all hypothetical sofas.
Yeah, we're not actually going to make them, but wouldn't it be cool if we did? It's like, so I can't have gay sex on the gay IKEA sofa?
No.
The gay Kia sofa? It's like, no.
The hypothetical gay sofa.
Yeah, like, just, that's got to be a title of a video at some point, right? The hypothetical gay sofa. I'm just looking at this list of names, mate, and you've given me all the really hard ones.
I just realised that, like, there's one person in there that said that they were looking forward to you trying out, like, their little tongue twister they left in. And then that means that if going one by one, I've kind of fucked you on all of them.
So yes, if you are currently still watching the video, this is the little shout out we do at the end of each of our Wiki Weekends episodes to say thank you to those on our Patreon who subscribe to the highest shout out tier. And a running challenge I guess it's just me who's been saying this, so I deserve this.
No.
That we've had for our audience is to come up with the funniest or hardest to pronounce name on Patreon you can to fuck us over during this section. And oh boy, have our audience stepped up this month.
They have indeed. And Carl, do you want to kick off the list and continue to get the hard names?
Okay, let's start with, so the first person we shout out is Star, B of Awesome, Star Emoji, B Emoji, Crown Emoji, B 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 Emoji.
You once worked 96 hours straight.
Oh yes, it was horrible, I tell you. By the end I thought I was a hummingbird of some kind.
Oh yeah, I studied your old security tapes.
Beep, 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 beep.
And after that, we have Wu One King Day One Piece Wonka.
Hey, that's for you, the One Piece!
この帽子をお前に預ける。俺の大切な帽子だ。大事にしろよ。
Yeah, the One Piece. Is this like with Dragon Ball, where just people from South America have co-opted it, right? Where you always see taco trucks in Mexico that have Goku on there. Which is the greatest thing, right?
I don't really know whether Straw Hat is popular, but I do know that a lot of Latin America is massive One Piece fans. I do know that much, but
I don't... Dragon Ball. All I can think is just that Fact Fiend video we did years ago, where strip clubs in Mexico aired the Tournament of Power. We move on now to the next person to shout out, and they've made their name on Patreon a tongue twister for yours truly. So, the Burning Dragon burns bright in the Bourbon Bureau of bodacious buffoons, buffing barns in the backs of Bengal barnacles. Yeah, and you can confirm, right, Lucas, I had one attempt at that before we started recording. That's my second go. I love tongue twisters. Yeah. Do better next time. The Burning Dragon burns bright in the Bourbon Bureau of bodacious buffoons, buffing barns in the backs of Bengal barnacles.
The last thing is, Karl had one attempt at it beforehand, and still read it just immaculately without trying.
I'm really good at tongue twisters.
I am not, as the next name, Rustlindis Memphis, will show. I struggle with 2 words.
I admire your luck, Mr.
Memphis. Rustlindis Memphis.
The next name to shout out is in another language, according to the person who wrote it, and that is Niknakui Hochata. So I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Apologies if not, but at the same time, they specifically chose that name to fuck us over, so hopefully they found it funny at least. Just watching this white boy struggle.
Anyway, the name after that is one that's a little bit easier to say. That is Lucille de Steele. Thank you so much for your support.
This robot seems to be running on empty. I don't believe it. Adam is taunting Zeus.
Mr. Turbo.
He's actually asking for more.
Yes, and I have a nice, easy to pronounce name after this one, so thank you to Little Ghost for not entirely fucking over me in this specific shout out. Little Ghost.
Next, we've got somebody that did have a ridiculously long name, but now has chosen to, give up the bit, so to speak, because they have many patrons to support, and it's Kicking Bucket. And I can only see this as a little bucket with a fish in or something, maybe.
No, I think it's a bucket with the handle, right? That's where the rest of the Patreon name went. They put the rest of the name into the little bucket.
They put it in the Kicking Bucket,
Yeah. And the next person shout out is Judge Dredd. And shout out to the person with the name Judge Dredd on Patreon for letting me keep putting Judge Dredd clips into these shout outs.
I hate cops! Look in my eyes, John. I'll see you in hell tonight.
And you're going to have to figure out, you're going to have to decipher how to put in clips for Decipher Bio, Karl.
Well, it's going to be like Cypher from Pokemon, right? Who's that Pokemon? It's Cypher!
Who's that Pokemon? It's Cypher!
Decipher Bio. The God card from Yu-Gi-Oh!
That's Slifer. You get it fucking right. Decipher the Sky Dragon.
Slifer the Sky Dragon, not Cypher the Sky Dragon, yeah.
Decipher Bio, the Sky Dragon. Oh, this next one is someone who's just put an entire sentence in what I presume is Spanish. I studied Spanish at school.
I didn't.
By which I mean I had a really fit Spanish teacher, so I didn't learn any fucking Spanish. So let's give this one a go, shall we? So Carlos crea un oración un español para tortura a Carlo Boliviano y Lucas Hollandes and Petron. And I'm just going to put on the accent and hope it sounds good. Carlos crea un oración un español para tortura a Carlo Boliviano y Lucas Hollandes and Petron. And all I think when we're talking about communicating with people from, like, you know, another region of the world is that, like, incredible screenshot someone grabbed from, like, a Japanese textbook about what people in England talk like. And it shows you, like, a little cartoonish Japanese tourist, and it's some, like, cartoonish British guy with, like, a Burberry cap, and it's like, "Oh, you Chinese slags, you want to go for a shag?" And it's like, I'll be honest, you got us. You got us, Japanese textbook.
The one thing that I love doing is just knowing many different iterations of hello in different languages. And it's just funny how many people are just like, "Oh, we've been cut out, I'm so sorry." It's like, I don't know what you were saying, I just know to be able to try and trick you.
Like, Lucas stands up and starts going, "Yumo Gwegwe Vaidi Sao, Yumo Gwegwe Vaidi." It's like, shit, you watch Jackie Chan Adventures.
Oh,
you know
shit.
what you're doing.
Oh, shit.
Bro, watch Jackie Chan Adventures. Like, it's fucking moist right now. But yeah, thank you to everyone at home for watching this far and also for supporting us on our Patreon. Like, I hope people continue to fuck us over with harder tongue twisters and hard to pronounce words from languages we're not familiar with.
And keep just happening to put it in an order where Karl gets all the shit ones.
Don't do that. Everyone needs to do it. Luke has got to suffer too. Do you want to have a go at any of those I said?
No.
Do you want to have a go at the tongue twister?
No, don't. I'll try next month, maybe.